The Joe Biden scandal just keeps getting worse. Even 9 months after his disgraceful departure from Washington, D.C., we are still receiving new information that reveals how truly historically bad his presidency was. It wasn't enough that the Democrat establishment covered up that he was brain dead. It wasn't enough that he created record high inflation. It wasn't enough that he allowed 20 million illegals into the country. It wasn't enough that he imposed by force the most destructive and perverse ideology we've ever seen. But now it's been revealed that 2 million jobs created under Joe Biden never even existed. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's hear CNN report the news that nearly 1 million jobs in Biden's last year alone were fake.
We are following major economic news. New numbers suggesting the U.S. labor market is not as strong as it has appeared to be. According to a preliminary report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. added nearly 1 million fewer jobs than originally reported for the year through March. This is a gigantic adjustment that we're talking about here. And if it holds through February, when the final tally is reported, this would mark the largest annual revision ever.
It's almost as if the American people were right when they said they felt the economy was bad, despite the Democrats showing their manipulated statistics showing that the economy was booming, that jobs were growing by the millions. The most intellectually dishonest talking point the Democrats kept regurgitating was Joe Biden created 18 million jobs. He insulted the intelligence of every single American by claiming credit for the 16 million jobs that went away because of the pandemic and then naturally came back once it was over. And now we come to find out nearly 1 million jobs in his last year alone didn't exist. 818,000 jobs were revised down the year prior and 300,000 the year before that, leading to 2 million jobs Biden took credit for creating that never even existed. Well, technically they did exist. They just all went to illegal immigrants. Here's CNN admitting as much.
One of the reasons, or a couple reasons rather, that this does happen is because the Bureau of Labor Statistics is really trying to work with survey data that they get from businesses. So some newer companies may have suggested that they were hiring more people than they actually did. And that survey data, the response rate has really dropped in recent years. So they're trying to merge survey data with, now in this report, Brianna, much clearer and much more pointed tax filing data that businesses provide. And they're trying to merge those two and trying to paint a clearer picture. But also in those tax filings from companies, they will not be reporting undocumented workers. And so we know that they are a large portion of the labor force, but they will not be counted in this report. That is also why you can potentially see that this number is revised a lot lower than was anticipated.
This is shocking, but it's not surprising. During the Biden administration, data came out that showed U.S. citizens lost 1 million full-time jobs and illegals gained 3 million full-time jobs. Democrats would disingenuously point to low unemployment numbers as proof that the economy was doing well and Americans were gainfully employed. But when you pull back the curtain, you realize that Americans lost 1 million full-time jobs and gained 5 million part-time jobs. Why? Because Biden's inflation made life so expensive that people with full-time jobs now had to start getting second jobs, part-time jobs. This is why people were so insulted when the Democrats completely ignored their concerns about the economy and instead told them to shut up and look at these statistics. It's the same thing they're doing right now with crime. They said DC crime is at a 30-year low, but obfuscate the fact that a DC police captain was put on leave for fraudulently manipulating the numbers to make it look like crime has gone down, which prompted the DC Police Union to file a lawsuit against the police department. But CNN, desperate to mitigate the reality that they were complicit in spreading this false narrative, says, well, Trump did just fire the head of Bureau of Labor Statistics, so is that the reason that almost 1 million jobs were revised down? And they are stunned when the lady says, nope, this is the real data.
And this revision, Vanessa, covers most of President Biden's final year in office, as you noted. It also comes after President Trump, in quite a spectacular fashion, fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He accused her without evidence of rigging the numbers in favor of Democrats. Is there any reason to doubt this new data?
There isn't, and that is because as a viewer at home, you may be saying, wait a minute, these numbers keep changing up and down, but that's actually to get the numbers to more of an accurate representation of the jobs market. As new data comes in, more surveys come in, more data points come in, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is able to get to a more accurate picture of the jobs market. And Brianna, in February of 2026, we will actually get the final annual number for what the labor market looked like this year. Also worth pointing out that the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Brianna, doesn't have any oversight over the collection of this data. They're not involved in the data.
Sorry, CNN, you're not going to be able to blame Trump for this one. This was a top-down, institutionally coordinated cover-up. And you wonder why Trump fired the head of BLS? Like the lady said, revisions happen all the time, but nearly 1 million jobs overstated in Biden's final year, and 800,000 the year before that? That is the intentional manipulation of data to paint a rosy picture of the Democrats' dumpster fire. No jobs were even created for Americans under the entire Biden administration. And how could they, when Americans were getting undercut by illegal third world slave labor? The Democrats claim to stand for workers' rights, good paying jobs with good benefits, but then advocated for illegals to work long, hard, grueling, laborious jobs for pennies with absolutely no labor protection. They don't even realize they broke the entire function of capitalism that forces wage growth. They say the illegals are working jobs no Americans want to do. Well, the natural function of capitalism is if you have a job that needs to be done and nobody wants to work it, you have to increase the wage you're offering to attract people. If you import a bunch of third world slaves, then businesses have no incentive to offer a good salary that will attract workers. But it's not just the job numbers that were manipulated to make Democrats look good. It was also the Federal Reserve. While Fed Chair Jerome Powell has no problem playing politics and refusing to lower rates because he doesn't like Donald Trump, CNBC reveals there was no reason for him to lower rates months before the election other than to help out the Democrats. It was completely politically motivated. Take a look.
But if the markets believe, that is to say, eventually if the investors believe that high inflation expectations do not justify the Fed going easy on policy, the markets take over. And that is what happened when Jerome Powell made that serious mistake in September of last year of cutting the interest rates by 50 basis points. The markets did not think that was necessary. I thought it was politically motivated. It was 7 weeks before the elections. There was already no love lost between Trump and Powell. And he clearly has had his interest in cutting the rate by 50 basis points. There was no economic reasoning. The market said you should not have cut rates. Therefore, the 10-year yield is going to go up.
This is why it's so tiring to hear Democrats complain about Donald Trump. Democrats are so narcissistic, they refuse to acknowledge any of these things happened under Joe Biden because they see it as an indictment on their character, on their intelligence, which they perceive to be vastly superior than Republicans. The Democrats had no problem politicizing the Federal Reserve for their benefit, and now that Trump's pointing out it's being politically weaponized against him, he's a tyrant. They had no problem politicizing job numbers to make them look good. And now that it's come to light that the numbers were off by millions and Trump wants to remove the person in charge of that, he's a tyrant. They had no problem weaponizing the justice system against their political opponent. And now that Trump's trying to clean that up, oh yeah, he's a tyrant. Every Democrat accusation is a confession. Name one thing Donald Trump's done that's remotely close to Joe Biden mandating that 80 to 90 million Americans had to take an experimental vaccine or else they would lose their job. But Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, actually predicted that this revision was going to happen weeks ago, and the Meet the Press host tried to call him a conspiracy theorist for it.
Mr. Secretary, you know, the economy did add nearly 500,000 manufacturing jobs under former President Biden. In this case, since April, again, you're actually losing manufacturing jobs. Is that problematic for your policy?
Well, a couple of things, Chris. We're going to get the revisions for last year next week, and there may be as big as an 800,000 job downward revision. Again, this would be the second downward revision, so I'm not sure what these people who collect the data have been doing. It's good. We need good data. Secondly, what we are seeing is the jobs that are being created are going to either native-born or legal Americans. Most of the jobs created under the Biden administration, they went to illegal aliens.
Well, and I think that there would be a lot of debate over the fact that they went to illegal aliens, but let's
Well,
keep
no,
moving.
no.
Let's,
That's the fact.
Like, look at her aggressively defending the party narrative despite not knowing what she's talking about. They keep pointing to Trump's low job growth numbers as indicative that his policies are failing. But simple math and common sense would explain that if 1.6 million illegals have self-deported and tens of thousands are getting deported every single month, that would mean America is losing jobs. But if hundreds of thousands of American citizens are gaining jobs, well, that's a good thing. That's what we want. But their narrative is crumbling in real time. They claimed we were unfairly scapegoating illegal immigrants for taking American jobs. But that's exactly what the numbers are showing. Once again, another MAGA conspiracy theory turned out to be true. That is why I implore everyone to make sure you go and vote in the 2026 midterms. The Democrats are dangerous and they cannot be allowed to regain power. They disregarded every norm we have to try and take down Donald Trump. They wanted permanent tyrannical control over the culture, over the government, and they are vindictive that Donald Trump took all of that away from them. That's why their entire platform is opposing Donald Trump, not listening to the concerns of people and forming new policies that would actually get voters excited about being a Democrat. They just want to trash Donald Trump enough so they can regain control and continue implementing their anti-American policies. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.